It means we want to put people back in charge of their lives by making this once again the freest country on earth. And let's get down to some of the specifics. Well, one of the reasons we have this out of control inflation is because the cost of government is driving up the cost of living. I'm going to cap government spending with a new dollar-for-dollar law that requires the government find $1 of savings for every new dollar of unbudgeted spending. And there's lots of waste. We know there's lots of waste out there they can cut, but there's no incentive for them to cut it because they just pass the bill on in higher debt, taxes, and inflation. Just today, we found out that the total hotel room cost for all of the fancy people that went to the Queen's funeral was $400,000. This is a 3-day delegation. One of the rooms cost $6,000 per night for a single room. Cliff, who stayed in that room? Were you staying in that room?
It was just the Prime Minister.
It was just the Prime Minister. Well, I asked Justin Trudeau 5 times on the floor of the House of Commons who stayed in the room. He won't tell us. So anybody got any guesses who the mystery man or the mystery woman is who stayed in that room? Well, the Taxpayers Federation is actually taking the government to court to find out who stayed in that room. Don't you think it's time we find out? So we got Canadians who are forced to live in homeless shelters while they go to university. The Prime Minister has a friend that's staying in $6,000 hotel rooms. But it's not just the hotel. It's the $54 million for the ArriveCan app. An app that didn't work, wasn't necessary, and could have been designed for $300,000. They spent $30 billion on wage subsidies to companies that were profitable enough to pay out dividends and bonuses to their executives. That money was supposed to go to companies that were hurting, not those that were helping their most wealthy and most powerful people. They're giving billions of dollars in loan guarantees to large infrastructure companies so that if the project goes under and loses money, the taxpayer picks up the profit, but the cost, but if the project goes well, then the company takes away the profit. They've increased the size of the federal bureaucracy by 30% in 8 years, and on top of that, they've doubled the amount of money they spend on outsourcing to consultants because apparently all these extra public servants are not able to do the work in-house, including McKinsey. $100 million for McKinsey. So there's lots of waste in this government, but we need to incentivize the system to save the money. So we're going to cut back on the high-priced consultants. By capping spending, we'll force ministers and deputy ministers to make the same either-or decisions with your money that you make in your household. If you want to build that extra porch, you might take a pass on the vacation, or you might work at getting a bargain on both, but in your household, you can't go over budget. Government should be the same. It should live by the same laws of scarcity that applies to every creature in the universe except the politician. Well, let's bring that rule on the backs of politicians so that they have to make the tough choices to save money so that we can phase out the deficit. The Americans brought in this law back in the 1990s, and they were able to phase out the deficit and pay down $400 billion of debt. And as soon as that law lapsed, they went right back into deficit and haven't reemerged since, which proves politicians need laws to limit their spending. They need to be disciplined by law or they will spend irresponsibly. I'm going to bring in that law. We're going to balance the budget. You've been pinching your pennies long enough. It's time that politicians started pinching their pennies too. Yeah.